Dishman, welcome to the party. I'm so happy to have you here. Just for everybody kind of catching this live or, on the replay, can you just take maybe a minute or so, man? Just give us a quick background, where you're from, what you teach, and really kind of what brought you to the teacher project in the first place, man.
Thank you so much, Kyle, for having me on. I appreciate that. So I'm based in Midlands in England, and I'm a mathematics teacher. And my company, we support pupils with their maths, working towards GCSE and A-level across the whole of England. And well, for this time round, I've been on the teacher project for just over 3 months now. And yeah, it's been an incredible journey so far.
What do you think, Dish, was maybe some of those things that were kind of stalling you out or kind of preventing you from kind of getting the traction that you wanted back then, when you came in a couple years ago, and didn't quite see that yet. But what do you think changed kind of in this opportunity and this engagement as you kind of stepped in back in September?
I think it was a deeper desire as to what I wanted to achieve with my
Hmm.
goal. And I'm one of these people that the goal itself is great when you reach it, but the fulfillment that comes along when you're working towards something, the day-to-day grind, when you're putting in your best, the feeling of you're putting in your best in
Yes.
something, that almost trumps the reward every day of the week. The reward's great. It's great because you know you're getting fruit for your labor.
Hmm.
Me, there was this desire. Well, I felt as though I was I was a lone soldier, one man business, and it can get lonely at times.
Yeah.
And also when you're just by yourself, what can happen is you because you're not surrounding yourself in an environment that is continuously growing or ideas bouncing up and around, it meant that growth became stagnant for me
Mm.
personally and for my business. And and there was this desire where I wasn't feeling fulfilled because of that, because I knew that I can offer more to my pupils, I can offer more to my business and myself, but something's got to change. And that driving force, I think, was the greatest it's ever been so far.
So fill me in, man. Before you jumped back in with us in September, where did you feel like you were in your business? Where were your student numbers? Where was the revenue at? Like, what was that looking like that kind of thrust you into that moment where you're like, yeah, like I'm sick and tired of being here. I want to go ahead and see something better. Like, spell that out for us. Where were you sitting back 3, 4 months ago?
I
And then we
think
can kind of talk about kind of where we are today.
absolutely. So it was the case that where I was sitting in September was where I was sitting 2 Septembers before that. That was the issue, right? So it was in this cruise control phase where I
Yeah.
was I was too comfortable with what was going on. And
Yeah.
you take things for granted and you become not sloppy. I don't think that's the right word because I never become sloppy when I'm working with my pupils and my business. But there is this something that's missing feeling, right? So
Yeah.
with respect to you want to know the numbers at the time?
I would love to know the numbers, man, if
So
you're comfortable
yeah,
kind of sharing exactly kind
yeah,
of
I
where
was
you
I was
were.
working with around 40 students at the
Uh-huh.
time, and t turnover at that time was, well, based on 40 students, it was comfortable, but it wasn't something that I wanted to work towards.
And
Because
so, oh, go ahead.
if you're not if you're not progressing and you're not making moves and you're not trying to think of new ways to support your pupils and how you can optimize your offer, how you can grow as an individual that allows your students to get the results
Hmm.
they want, you question what are you in the right game? You in the right profession?
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, in order for you to help somebody else change, you have to be doing the exact same thing. Otherwise, it's hypocritical. And I think that's the best thing that anybody watching this can realize is that if we want to be leaders, we need to be taking care of ourselves mentally. We got to be taking care of ourselves physically. We got to elevate in our identity to even have a position to be able to speak life into somebody else. Now, I'm curious because you had said it yourself. I was in the same spot 2 Septembers ago that I was this past September. I think sometimes people are afraid to make a decision because they see it as like a cost. Like, oh, I might have to make an investment into gaining more knowledge or gaining more education or changing something. But would you say, Dish, that there's a cost to not making a decision and just kind of falling into the same old grind of, well, this is just the way it is. I'm just going to keep doing it the same way. Any thoughts on that?
Cost is enormous. The cost of inactivity and the cost of inaction is enormous. And if I think back to if I had maybe taken the move 2 Septembers ago, then it would have been a well, we would have had multiple of these calls in that period of time, right? But just based on that cost, I would also like to highlight, Kyle, that although there is a cost element, but if you put yourself into the pupil's shoes that you serve, right? It's the same thing for them. You're asking for them not for a cost, but it's an investment in their child's future. So we have to also almost see it from their perspective, if we know we can offer them the results that they want, and we know that, of course, there is an investment associated to that, then I think it would be contradictory to kind of and assume that the same doesn't apply for us. So I think we all start off in that one-to-one model, don't we? And I remember grinding every evening. I remember I used to work a full-time job in the corporate space, and then every evening from the hours of 6 to 9, I would be going from one home to the other, to the other, to the other to teach people at their homes. And I did this for about 2 to 3 years. That meant working 8 to 9 hours on a Saturday, 8 to 9 hours
Mhm.
on a Sunday, and it simply wasn't sustainable.
Yeah.
But the biggest block then was that how do I grow? How do
Mhm.
I do more? And there's only so many hours in the day, right? So something had to change. Now, I want to also add something. This is massive, and I don't think I've even shared this with you before, Kyle. It's that when I was in the community of the teacher project, I was given some advice by another community member, and they told me that as a teacher dish, somebody that, is able to make impact on their pupils, you have an obligation to help as many students as possible. And that advice that I got from being within the teacher project literally transformed
Mm.
my business overnight,
Yeah.
because the difficult conversations that I was putting off with having to parents of saying, okay, we might have to change the model. It got me over the line to have those conversations. It got me over the line to thinking about how can I actually help more people, more pupils, and also it reinforced that that why I'm a teacher is to help as many pupils as possible. We have a skill, a gift, that we have to share it.
Fill me in, man. In the first like week or two of you jumping back into the program, I know, I think I went back and looked. You got your ads launched super fast. You got the first call booked, and then you took the first call and like closed it. Boom, boom, boom in the first like 2 to 3 weeks, man. Talk me through that. What was going through your head riding the wave like super fast just in those first couple weeks? Because that was just super impressive. Let's hear about that a little bit.
Well, when I initially joined the call, I think it's worthwhile just talking about the journey of
Hmm.
how I was onboarded. So I was assigned coach, Nigel, who was
Yep.
my personal coach for me, and he took the time to really map out why I was in the program and what I wanted to achieve from it,
Mm.
what my what I was really looking for, right? And then he what he enabled me to do was to then break that down into small, manageable steps whereby I could work towards those goals. So we wrote out a plan,
Yeah.
and then so that was the plan. Then, of course, with the curriculum, there was stages in there that I had to follow. And I know one of the best things as well about the teacher project is you track everything, like all your progress each step of the way. So I think there was some guidelines in there. And I was thinking to myself, I just want to get through as much as this as possible. So I
Hmm.
made it, I remember the first week I made it my priority to just work through all the tech stuff, understand my offering, and then launch my ads. I think we got that up and running in a week. And then
Hmm.
within a couple of days, maybe even I think 2 days, I had a call, I booked a call, and shared the services that I was offering with the pupil and the parent. They seemed like really happy with it, and they
Yeah.
onboarded, and they're still working with me today.
Love that. Lifetime value, man. Long-term clients coming in. And I think that's amazing to see that as I was talking about you getting your ads launched, taking that first call, closing that first call, you had the awareness to go ahead and observe and say, hey, what led to that? What led to that speed of being able to execute in that manner? And you touched on some really key things. First and foremost, hey, I was onboarded really, really effectively. Like my coach came alongside me and said, hey, before we do anything, right, before we just start running in any direction, let's get focus and let's get clarity on what we're trying to do here and how we're going to make it happen and dialing that out in terms of like, hey, here's your plan. 30,000-foot view. This is what we're going to be achieving. And he went straight to you, man. It was like, what do you want? Right? Because that's his goal. He wants to help you hit your goals at the end of the day. So I think between those things and then saying, hey, I was just following the curriculum and making sure that I was tracking my information and what I was doing so that I could hold myself accountable. Those are huge, man. Would you say that between having a coach that's dialed in there and a curriculum that's like just really easy to follow, that made it very simple for you to kind of walk through those steps in like a short amount of time?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Because the curriculum is great because I can do it in my own time. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have to wait until a particular time. Like there were times when I was doing it late till night, early starts. It was, and it still is. It was a work involved, but I can do that in my own time, which is great. But then I know I have a set time when I'm speaking with my coach, and if I have questions on my mind, or if I'm uncertain about something, then I can get the answers pretty quickly. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, that coach is not the only option. I have so many other facilities to me where I can get the answers that I need to keep me moving
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah, and I think that's huge. But I love what you said, Dish. It wasn't just Nigel that was helping you along the way. There's a lot of different ways for you to go ahead and get support and ask questions and get feedback. Were there certain things that you were taking more advantage of over the last like 2, 3 months, like the office hours, the clinics, the mindset calls, with impact, some of the one-on-ones? What was really helping you here over the last couple months?
I think it'd be hard to just say one of those because
Mm-hmm.
they all worked with each other. But we had the mindset training calls, which are incredible to set your week off in the right way, to really put you into that headspace of productivity, which I love. And then, of course, you've got the sales element to it. You can always improve your sales, right? As good as your services might be, if you can't if you can't convey them to a parent of how good they are, then no matter how good your services are, there is a bit of a disjoint there in being able to get that across. So those sales trainings have been incredible for me. And then, of course, the advertising, which is a whole new space for me. I know very little about advertising, and so by joining those clinics, week out, it's really able to allowed me to just fine tune a few things here and there to be able to get the best advertising across.
So, yeah, Dish, as you look at where you're at, man, what was kind of the biggest milestone that maybe you hit here over the last quarter that you were pretty excited about and is kind of giving you that next launch pad? What would you say?
The milestones, I think the students, I've been getting leads on a consistent basis, and I've been learning the skills that's allowed me to enroll those leads as well. So I think I'm running at about a student per week right now in terms of since I've been here, in terms of
Mm-hmm.
enrollment. And I think the consistency is the key part here, right? It's not like that, oh, I had some growth period here and then I didn't have any growth. No, but the way things are going at the moment, and I hope they continue like this, I don't see them changing, but it's consistent. It's very consistent. So I get a lot of satisfaction from that. And of course, the revenue side of things as well. I think it's around 14K of new revenue that I've brought in. It's a little bit higher than that now, but it's, yeah, around about 18K new revenue that I've brought in since I joined just over 3 months ago. And that doesn't include the contract lifetime value of that pupil, right? So that's kind of the
Mm-hmm.
lower end of the number, but which is, so I mean, just to give context, I mean, the investment of being in the teacher project, I paid for that investment within the first month or so or something like that. So to be honest with you, I'm so pleased that what I've put in, I've already got out, from that
Yeah.
perspective. And still I'm growing from a mindset perspective. And there's so much more learning to do. And
Yeah.
it excites me every day.
I love it. Here, man. What has you excited about, being up in the impact program, the things that you're learning, the information that you're able to take in now, and the people you're able to communicate with that are in a higher level that you can look up to? What has you excited in regards to the changes that you want to see here over the next, 2 to 3 months in your own business?
I think for me personally, I want to be able to give the pupils more and more. And the
Mm-hmm.
way I can do that is by collaborating and hiring some
Mm-hmm.
really like-minded, super passionate teachers
Yeah.
to be part of the business. So I'm really excited to grow a team of tutors that can make high level impact. But with respect to the program and learning from others, all from the other tutors that have been on the program, maybe a little bit longer than me and uh, have done been there before, they all the answers are there. It's not so whenever I've got a question, I'll just go onto the community page and I'll just search for something and it almost always pops up. So every question I have in my mind has already been answered, which is
Mm-hmm.
great because I that avoids me falling into like pitfalls on the journey. And but what really excites me is being able to create a business rather than me as the business. Because if there's no me,
Mm-hmm.
there's no business.
Yeah.
And that's been one of the things so far. So I think a business is built around great people, and I'm yeah excited to just learn from you guys and how I can do that.
Is there one or two pieces of advice, man, that you might be able to share with somebody that might be on the fence, thinking about, wow, I want to do this, but I don't know if it's the right time or if I have the right resources. They might be feeling like you, where they're just kind of like, I feel stagnant here. Any advice that you might give to somebody in that similar situation that you found yourself in a couple years back?
Absolutely. I'd say you can only go so far alone without guidance and support. And although I thought I could, I had dreams of building a business and I had dreams of growth, but as I already mentioned, I was in the same place for 2 years. So what I would say is that it's really, really worthwhile just seeking out support to help you with your goals. And there is nothing wrong with saying, well, in fact, there's everything right with saying, hey, now is growth season. So I would say, if you are in the teaching space and you are tutoring students, whether you're starting out or whether maybe you've been doing it for a while and you're in a similar position to where I was and things have become stagnant and they're kind of the same, then explore your options firstly. And then the other thing I just comes to mind, there's many, but the other thing that comes to mind is that when I was tutoring and I was able to obtain those 40 students, it was through sheer hard work, adding value all the time and all word of mouth, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I think about the systems that have been shared with me in terms of how I can I was just having this thought yesterday and I was thinking to myself, all those years I'm a great teacher and I know that, but nobody knew about me. And if they did, wow, like for example, now I said, around 15 new students, which is
Mm-hmm.
almost, it's like 30% increase in 3 months.
Yep.
And those 40 students have taken me years to build up. So it makes you think you have to put yourself out there, but you can't. I mean, I didn't really know where to start.
Yeah.
Where do I go and put myself out? Put on my Facebook page, but it gets no likes, gets no seen. But there is a strategy, a smart way of doing that, which I realized of being on this program. And I would say, guys, if any of that resonates with you, then you can really benefit from this.